Here it goes. That should be live here in just a moment. There we go. All right. Well, then let's get started while Louis is doing his adjustments. I can talk while he's doing that, can't I? I should think. All right. Here we go. Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Louis D'Souza and Astrid Kaufman. Today is Monday, November the 4th, 2019. It's 4 p.m. in New York. That's 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. And once again, we're back to 9 p.m. in London, 5 a.m. in Tokyo, 6 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And guys, I got to tell you, I am happy, really happy to be doing a show today at all, because like I was telling Astrid before the show, Louis, 3 of our 5 shows last week got canceled. So looking forward to a week where I get to do all 5 shows again. That's like a treat at this point. So I'm celebrating, okay?
Brilliant. Oh, looking forward to it.
It was quite a week. I mean, we had Tuesday, Alex was sick. On Thursday, there was a police disturbance next door that was interfering with her ability to do the podcast without background noise. And then Friday, I lost power. I mean, what a week that was. But yeah, I'm assuming that's all in the past, and just getting excited about being able to do 5 again. So that's what my week was like. How was your week, Louis? Uh-oh, we lost sound. Your mic has disconnected, Louis. We got a little problem there. So I'm going to go to Astrid. How was your week, Astrid?
Well, I had a great week. I didn't have any power disconnected or anything. In fact, I went out into inclement weather on Saturday, I was telling you about, and had a bit of a tour around the ancient stones. So we live in a part of the world where we've got ancient stones and lots of history and sort of a bit of a magical place. So it was really great fun, and it was pouring with rain and wind and all sorts of, it was brilliant. It was like being in this kind of powerful sort of
so you got to be dedicated to do that. I mean, you have to really be dedicated to your art to go out in the wind and the rain to start feeling energy from stones. That takes a second level, I think.
Well, I haven't really done it before, but it just felt like the right thing to do at the right time. So okay. I really enjoyed it.
All right, well, that's fair enough. So, Louis, are we back? Do we have sound now from you?
Testing.
Okay, so I think we do have sound. So I'm going to go back to my first question. How was your week?
I was just about to say, sounds like much better than you. At least I don't store my marijuana in the next room,
Actually, I think she would have been happy if that's what the reason was. No, it was more along the lines of a couple not getting along nicely and not understanding that their energy is not dependent upon what the other person is doing, which is actually a beginning topic, I think, for today, because that often happens. You get people who don't, well, first of all, they've never been exposed to this kind of stuff like we have been about law of attraction. But secondly, they very often, we people as people, I mean, not just LA people, but just across the board, people don't really realize the impact that their own thoughts have on themselves. And they don't really appreciate the fact that all of that external stuff is really being caused internally. And that could be quite confusing. I mean, I know you run into that general theme a lot in your sauna at the club. So you probably have a number of different stories associated with that. But I mean, don't you find that's true? Most often people are externalizing things.
Well, I think all of us have, before we understand how everything works, we've looked for love in all the wrong places.
Right.
So, if Walt doesn't treat me in a certain way, I'm going to be unhappy. And if Walt treats me in a certain way, then I'm happy. And therefore, Walt yanks me around like a little toy.
And I like it.
Until I decide that I'm not going to give my power over to Walt.
Oh, darn.
And if he likes me, he don't care. And if he doesn't like me, he don't really care. As long as I like me.
Yeah, there's an interesting concept right there. That's actually the theme of this new podcast series that Alex and I have created is people, what happens when people don't really respect and like themselves as much as you just described, to the point where they're willing to say, you know what, I don't care what you're doing. It's okay. It doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah, it really starts making sense when Abraham Hicks puts the "I don't care" in the middle, right at the top before the positive. You start understanding, oh, yeah, that's why it's there. I've been having a bit of problems with the dishwasher guy, and I said to him, I just don't care anymore. And I just felt all that weight go off my shoulders. It's like, I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter anymore.
Invariably, when you say that, things change instantly.
Exactly. Then everything fell into place and everything was working. I was like, okay. I don't care.
That's a good one.
That's kind of like what I was doing last week with all of our breakdowns and being able to do the show. I figured, there's something going on here that I don't really know what it is. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to assume that there's a reason for this, that there's some good stuff that comes out of it. And in fact, there were a couple of good things that came out of it. I mean, I was able to take time on Friday to do something that I normally wouldn't do. I went out with my wife and we actually did a little house hunting. And it was very unplanned, let me tell you. But it was well worth it. We found some new houses to look at. We haven't found the one that we really want yet, but, still, it was worthwhile.
You know what I've loved about my little Jaguar journey is, I'm really finding out what I would like that's better. And I'm really getting an idea of the kind of cars, what they offer, and what I would like better. So, going around and viewing different houses really gives you an idea of what's out there, what you can look for, what you can visualize, and it gives you a far clearer idea of how you can start focusing now on what you want and understanding where you are at the moment. So it gives you that real clarity. So I remember when I was a contractor, an IT contractor in London, going around, there was one stage I just wasn't getting any jobs. It was after 9/11 and I went for interview after interview and nobody was hiring at that stage, and it was just like so annoying. And I was so good at being interviewed because I'd done it so often that, I was often better than the interviewers. But, it was really interesting because, I wasn't as confident then as I am now. So, you got knocked because you had refusal after refusal when you're not quite used to all those refusals. So you're kind of getting to the place where I just don't care anymore. I just got to let it go, and then just suddenly a job pops out from 10 interviews ago. Oh, we want you now, and it's like, well, how did that happen?
Yes. And it does wear you down. There's no doubt about that. Like you said, the best thing to do when it wears you down is just to let go. But we don't often do that. Some people just keep hanging on. I did that for 20 years on relationships. I just hung on and hung on and hung on. Finally, I gave in. I thought to myself, why didn't I do that 10 years ago?
Yeah, I was looking at, the incredible story of when I met my wife and all the rest of it. I've told you all that. And it was really interesting because I'd just come out of a relationship and I was saying to everybody and myself, I don't want another relationship. I don't want anything anymore. I don't want. And then I spend 5 days with a girl who moves in after the 5 days, and within another 2 days, we know we're going to get married and have kids,
Right. Amazing how it turns around just that fast.
Yeah, but it's really interesting, the importance of just letting go.
Yes. And letting go shows up as a thing to do in a lot of different contexts, which I'll use as a segue into what I thought about talking about today. I went through Facebook and just kind of randomly grabbed some posts in various law of attraction type groups that I thought might make interesting topics. And I'm sure in some cases there's going to be some letting go-ness needing to be done, if you'll forgive my butchering of the English language there. But let me go to a couple of them here. One of them that I'm going to start with this one just because it's not like anything I've ever seen in one of these groups before. It's something that you might expect to see, I don't know, in a public affairs group or something like that, or a religious group. but I'll bring it up and see what you guys think. I mean, I think it's fairly easy for us to address, but it's interesting.
I'm
It's
intrigued
a,
now.
yeah, it's a shared meme, and the meme says when you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or a European or anything else, you are being violent. Do you see why it is violent? Because you are separating yourself from the rest of mankind. When you separate yourself by belief, by nationality, by tradition, it breeds violence. So, a man who is seeking to understand violence does not belong to any country, to any religion, to any political party, or partial system. He is concerned with the total understanding of mankind. What do you think? I mean, that's not something you see every day in a Facebook law of attraction group. That's pretty unusual. I think you have to agree on that point.
My opinion is that whoever wrote that is quite confused.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious, but let's see exactly how he's confused. What do you think?
So, Astrid, do you want to start? Because
Well, I have something that is I suppose goes prior to that statement really, and that is when kids grow up, there is no concept of all of that. Kids grow up because they grow up and they play with each other, and there's no separation in that respect. They just play with each other, no matter what their color, no matter where they come from, until someone starts putting in their heads that they are different because. So yeah, in a way, I think unity and sort of understanding others through our our sameness is starts in childhood, and then separateness comes in through education and the world basically. So I mean that's something that the first thing that came to my mind, but take it from there, guys.
That's a good starting point.
so I just wanted to address when I said the person's confused what I meant. Now, when you listen to that meme, what did you call it? A meme?
I called it a meme. Yeah, it had a picture, it had text. I figured that makes it a meme.
Okay. So when listening to it, I don't feel any resolution. I don't feel resonance. I don't feel conclusion. I feel confusion when I listen to that. So when I say the person's confused, I'm saying that there's not a clarifyingness that comes out of it for me. Now, somebody else could be very clear about it and get it, okay? But for me, it doesn't ring true. So I'm not saying that for anybody else, for everybody else, that this is not something that is valid for them. So what they're talking about is, exactly what Astrid was kind of getting at, that unity is desirable and that segregation is not. That's kind of what they're getting at. And when you're looking at it from that point of view, if you wanted to show that unity is unifying and pure and beautiful and clear, you should put down words that emphasize that, which they didn't. They were using words like, what was it? Hatred. Violence. So,
Violence was the main theme, yeah.
So they're using words of extreme what they don't want and not much about what they do want. So whenever I'm listening to somebody, I'm always weighing those two up. Are they focusing more on what they don't want or focusing more on what they want? And I generally don't have to analyze it and write down a list of what they're saying. I feel. Does it feel good to me or does it not feel good to me? So it doesn't feel good to me. So I can pretty much guarantee you that what they're doing is they're focusing more on what they don't want.
Which I agree.
It doesn't feel good to me. that word violence. I mean, that was a surprise when you said that. So,
But they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it to shock you, okay?
Right.
And yes, for some people, they might need to be shocked out of their lethargy. But when you get to the clear understanding that we now have, you don't need that anymore. It's not a value to us at all. It is actually the opposite of that. Now we now realize that for somebody who's pushing against what they don't want, and not flowing towards what they do want with clarity. So, I understand that for all different religions, places, people, their own vibrations, etc., there is a place for everything in this world, without exception. And it's really interesting that in the old days, I would have said that's bad, it's wrong, it's not good, etc. But I can't do that anymore. I can see their point of view. I can see almost anybody's point of view now, and I can accept them from what it is. But I probably wouldn't bump into that kind of a meme simply because I'm not a vibrational match to that kind of thing. And so I wouldn't even see it. It probably wouldn't even bump into my life. So
yeah.
I have to admit, normally I wouldn't even look for something like that. I just wanted to have a topic, so I said, let's go through Facebook and see what's here.
What were you thinking just before you read it?
I was thinking, gee, we need a topic.
So what are your thoughts, Walt? What do you think of that?
Actually, when I first read it, and when I got to the word violent, my first impression was that the person who authored this has a victimhood mentality. They have a mentality that you can be hurt by what I believe, and I can be hurt by what you believe. That's what the word violence implies. Like I'm going to be causing harm to you.
Video's gone, Walt.
Well, yeah, it does that because the cat steps on the screen, but I'll see if I can fix it. Yes, it's more important for her to get to the window than for me to do the podcast. It's nice to know what the priorities are. But that was my first reaction, that, they're so caught up in this concept of violence. I'm saying, whoa, okay, well, if that's really what you want to attract into your life, go ahead. Personally, I'm not sure I would make that my focus of attention. And when you said, Louis, that it didn't resonate with you, I would go even further. It anti-resonated with me. It drove me away. It's like I wanted to get away from it as fast as possible. And the only reason I didn't is I needed a topic for the show.
Which is perfect, because now you can see how something that is out of the vortex can help you get into the vortex. And we're using it right here and right now, which is great. So I'm very grateful for them for putting it up, so we can have a great, conversation piece.
The other thing that caught my attention about it is that it was all, I mean, like you said, most of it was negatively phrased. The one bit of positivity, and it was pretty vague, so it's almost hard to call it that, was the end. The end was where he said that the person who doesn't belong to parties, religions, all that kind of thing, he is concerned with a total understanding of mankind. So that's what the author of this was saying. That's what's desirable for me. It's desirable for everybody to have that total understanding of mankind. And my first question was, why? I mean, I have some understanding of people, and I pride myself in my ability to read people, to understand them, to relate to them as well as I can in a way that's meaningful to them. But why is it important for everybody to have that understanding and have that, presumably, I'm kind of getting from this meme, presumably have the same understanding? What's so important?
But fundamentally, Walt, we all want to feel good, don't we?
Yes.
Wherever we come from. So fundamentally, that is a sameness that we all share, no matter what our color or our background or our political affiliations or whatever. But it might be that there are different things that make us feel good, depending on.
By the same token, I would also say there are a lot of people who don't want to feel good.
True.
So should I therefore be trying to get them to stop feeling that way?
No, it's not your business.
It's not mine, no. And that's what I thought of when I saw this. It's like, this is, it's almost like, it's kind of a little bit of a passive aggressive thing. Like, I'm being very gentle and I'm being very understanding by posting this meme, but there's also this little underlying threat that like if you don't agree with me, then there's something wrong with you.
So Walt, I was thinking, how could we reword it so that we could portray it to the people out there in a LOA way.
Okay.
So what I was saying, what I like about Abram is they often start a section by saying you're non-physical before you come into this physical universe, and your non-physical takes on a vibrating interpreting machine, the physical body, and the two together are playing with contrast so that they can expand.
Mm-hmm.
So once we take that little viewpoint in place, we now realize that the bigger part of us is non-physical, the smaller part of us is physical, and that non-physical part of me equals the non-physical part of you. And that's the oneness which we're seeking. So the important thing for people to understand about that oneness is that it's already there.
Mm-hmm.
We're already one. And there's to find the unity, you need to start getting to the place of greater clarity that you have a higher self, a spiritual part of you, a non-physical part of you that is always with you. And once you get to that and understand that with greater clarity, you really start getting the oneness aspect of us all.
Yeah, that's true. It's an entirely different sense of oneness from what this author meant and what most people think about when they think about the concept of oneness. It's almost like with most people who think that concept, the concept of oneness, it becomes an exclusive thing. You are either individual or you're one. You're not both. And in their view, if everybody is one, it's a merging of personalities, it's a merging of identities all into one subsuming identity. And that.
But I'm not you, Walt, and I never will be.
Thank God. No, I mean, yes.
So that the separateness of who we are. A male is very different to a female, etc., is something you can't get away with if you have manifested physically. And you will come to understand that we are different. And in our differences, there is a sameness. And if you just look to the sameness things in us, then you start seeing the unity. But if you're looking at the difference, you're black, you're white, you're rich, you're poor, then you find the segregation. So they say that the more enlightened you are, the more you're looking at other people for the sameness in them and not the separateness, which is kind of what this person is getting at, which is great. It's
but
great.
When you're
the challenge the individual did is, if you look at how long the section was that they were focusing on what they didn't want, and what does the law of attraction do to that when you're focusing on it? Just makes it bigger.
Much bigger.
So if you understand the law of attraction, you'll understand that meme is going to push you away from oneness. It's not going to get you to oneness. Now, if they'd spent more time focusing on what they wanted in there and less time what they didn't want in there, they would be starting to move towards the oneness. They would get other people to move towards the oneness.
Great point. I like that. I also like the phrase. I don't remember exactly what you said, but something along the lines of the sameness is in our differences. I thought that was brilliant. I love that. That says it perfectly.
The contrast, yeah.
And when you're looking at things from the point of view of when you're in the vortex, then when you're in vibrational alignment with your inner being, it's you're looking at things from source energy. You're looking at things from a very different perspective. But obviously, not everyone is in the vortex all the time, or ever. Some people aren't.
Well, they're bounding around the universe.
But they will sort of fall in and fall out.
Oh, there he goes again.
Bouncy bounce.
So that was good. Let's go to another one. This is a post. Now, this is something that you'll see more of in a Facebook group, although I can't say this is anything that I've seen this clearly stated. And I'll just read it because it's short. The person posts, how Do I use the law of attraction to stop drinking? I drink 4 times a week to the point of blackout, and I definitely drink when stressed. I just need to stop, and I know I can. What are some good affirmations? She asks.
The first thing I would ask is, does the person understand how important it is that they're doing the right thing? Do they understand that getting blindly drunk is the right thing for them at the time? Whew, there's a hard one, hey?
Yeah, it is. That's not one you normally hear when you go to an AA group.
No.
No.
No, it's only this crazy LOA guy who's rubbish. He says things like this. So I listened to an hour, or felt like an hour long. I don't think it was quite that long. It's probably about a 30-minute long Abram Hicks talk to a lady who looks after American Indians who have a propensity to indulge in alcohol. Propensity. So it was interesting because the first thing that Abram says is when you get them there is you make them feel okay about where they're at. It is so important. You know, you're taking alcohol to block out certain things that you don't like in your life. You know, are you really aware of that? Are you understanding how important it is? Because it brings relief and release, maybe even temporarily, but it brings relief and release. Okay, it has other problems with it, but it brings relief and release. That is why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Are you clear that it's okay, that what you're doing is you're automatically protecting yourself? You're getting some relief and release to get into a balanced place. That is not working very well to you because there's side effects, but you're doing it for the right reasons to get relief and release. And it's really difficult to get people to fully grasp that because it's a very important standing point for you to bounce forward, to understand how to move out of that. Because if you can't accept where you're at, if it's so wrong and bad, you've got to deal with wrong and bad all the time before you can move forward.
Excellent point. I love it. I love all the points that you made there. And
so
you've
now amplified and solidified this ground base rule that it's okay where you're at. All right, it's okay. And you're doing it because it's the best thing you know how to do at this moment in time. All right. So now you go out and you ask for help, like this guy's done in the group. So you've now say, you know, please guys, help me. I want to know what I should do. So they are thinking immediately that affirmations may help them. All right.
Well,
so
she was actually thinking it. The poster was saying that. She figured, okay, an affirmation is what I need.
The poster.
The person who posted said she was the one who asked for the affirmations. Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
They had already perceived a possible solution, but they wanted the wording for the solution. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
So that's interesting. So they not only have got to the stage of wanting help and prepared to ask for it, they've now got to the stage of possibly finding a solution that they think is going to work. Now they just want to tweak a bit. So they're already on a roll forward, which is great. You know, I love it. So there was a bit of pain in the beginning saying about their current condition, about how it manifests, etc., and what happens, and all the rest of it. So they pointed out the pain, they pointed out a possible solution. So the important thing in the beginning is to get them to, as I say, to understand where they're at and to understand that it's okay and that they're doing the best thing they can at that moment. Then you take them to the next step. Once they feel that from you as a healer, a practitioner, a helper, a life coach, a blah, blah, whatever you might be, a friend, once you get to that level of making them okay where they're at, you're now saying to them, okay, I don't think affirmations is the best. It's not what I would recommend. My first recommendation with them is, let me explain a little bit about the law of attraction. Do you understand that when you focus on what you don't want, it gets bigger? You focus on what you do want, it gets bigger. You know, and it's a great basis, a basic premise for people to make and jump forward. It's very, very, very basic. So when you say no to something, I don't want any more alcohol, you're going to get more of it. So let's leave that alone for a while, and let's say, what do you want? Okay, so yeah, I'd like a little more clarity in my life, a little more focus. I'd like maybe a car, whatever it is. Okay, let's start focusing on what you want. Write down a list, and then you said you wanted to make an affirmation. Wouldn't it be nice if? Bring that in. I could, I would be whatever those things that you put on the wanted column is. So, and you get them to start focusing a little more on that, a little more on that, making sure they're very happy where they're at. Focusing a little more on that, a little more on that, happy where they're at. And so you get them to be grateful for where they're at, and then focus on where they're going, grateful for where they're at. And slowly but surely, you just build them up like that. And, it's really a step-by-step process. And Abraham Hicks brought in a lot more steps than I've done here. But it's fascinating because you go from focusedly negative, generally positive, focusedly positive. So you build them up to scale. And, use that emotional guidance scale to see where they're at, and then just take them to the next level, and just focus on things on that level and build them up. Do a focus wheel with them. I would recommend a focus wheel. A lot of people haven't even heard of focus wheels and know what they are. So
it's in the book Ask and It Is Given. There are lots of processes that one can do.
But basically, you draw a circle, draw 1 to 12 like a clock, and outside the circle, you can say is outside the vortex, which means is where you're unhappy. I'm an alcoholic. Inside the circle, wouldn't it be nice if I was clear and happy? Okay, so that would be in the center. And then you take number 1 is, wouldn't it be nice if I just drank a bit less? Does that feel okay to you? Does it feel like something you can possibly do? Then that's what you write down. And then slowly you build up the vibration of everything until you can get to the final one. So it's going out of the vortex, round into the vortex in the middle. And that's all it is. It's taking you and building your vibration up. And you just go through it again and again and again until you get used to the idea of building that vibration from down here all the way up. And it's a very simple process, but it's extremely effective for some people. Now, some people like me, I don't like writing anything down. It never works for me. So Jinshin's good for me. I just hold a finger.
and that's a nice. I was thinking that one of the fingers that would be very useful for her to hold is the index finger, the first finger, because the index finger is all about flow. Let it go, let it flow. And it's all about harmonizing fear as well, and actually is related to addictions. So changing that pattern, changing that energy, you could just start by holding the index finger. Really, really powerful. And it won't sort of change everything in a day, but consistency, holding the index fingers a bit every day, 20 minutes every day, or a few minutes every day, making it your friend, things will just get easier and easier.
Sorry, Astrid, that's just too simple. I'm an alcoholic and I've just got to hold my finger.
The proof is in the pudding. Just hold your finger, hold your index finger. And, Mary Burmeister, who was the foremost teacher of Jin Shinjitsu, she brought it to the West in the 1950s. I mean, she talks about the index finger allowing the flow. So it harmonizes that. It harmonizes all the blockages that you might have in your life, and just gets you in the flow, gets things flowing.
Let it go, let it flow. Hold
That's
the
right.
index finger, go.
I have something I wanted to add to the conversation. This may actually create a little controversy, so we'll see how it plays out. But for me, there's an important piece that I think is I think in most cases it's actually required, but it isn't going to be required in all cases, so maybe I won't draw that broad brush. But whenever someone is dealing with an addiction, particularly an alcohol addiction, they're basically trying to mask some pain. I mean, that's basically what you said at one point early on, and I agree with that. That's actually true. They are trying to mask some pain. And the thing about an addiction is, the word addiction in my mind means that the pattern is so built up, the momentum of it has been built up to such a large level that even if we start trying to direct our attention over to, well, I want a new car, or I want a house or I want a new relationship or something like that, we still find that the tapes, as they're often called, that subconscious mind keeps bringing us back to the source of the pain because so much momentum has been built up over it. So from my perspective, whenever I'm trying to help somebody like that, I'm trying to get them to answer the question, what would you prefer to have as a resolution instead of the pain? Where would you like it to go instead of being painful? If you could kind of rework, if you just kind of wave a magic wand and the whole relationship or boss issue or money issue or whatever it is that is creating this pain for you to such a great degree that you want to drown it in alcohol, whatever that thing is, what would you like it to be instead? Because in that way, they now are in a way they're confronting. I mean, the first thing you said was to kind of embrace it. That's my words, not your words. But you were kind of embracing the fact that, yes, that was the right thing for me to do at this point. To me, the next step after that is, okay, now that I've embraced it, what do I want instead of that experience? What's the different experience that I want? And I find that, yes, if the person has trouble getting there, they have trouble facing it, they have trouble coming up with it, then sure, go the roundabout route of, well, I'd like a new car, I'd like a new house, I'd like a new relationship, whatever. But at some point, I think you have to actually go head on with whatever that source of pain is and say, what do I want instead of what causes that pain for me? Because until you go there, you really can't change that pattern that I can see. Mm.
Do you need to change the pattern? So going back to the old story of the glass of water that's dirty. Now, if you keep on pouring clean water in, what's going to happen? And you let it spill over the top, what's going to happen to the water eventually after continually filling it up with clean water?
You're leading to the idea that eventually it's going to clean up the glass.
You're going to get clean water, and pretty much clean water. It's going to have almost no dirt in it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you do not have to go and dig the dirt out of the glass to get rid of it. You don't have to face it head on. Mm-hmm. You just have to keep on focusing on what you want, keep on focusing on what you want, keep on focusing on what you want. That'll put clean water in. Mm-hmm. And eventually the magnitude of what you've pointed out, Walt, which is the thought of what you don't want again and again and again, which has got so much momentum, which is driving you forward to drink some more, is not there anymore because you're now only focusing where you want. And because you're focusing where you want, the universal law of attraction is going to expand it and you're going to move forward out of that, not because you're pushing against it anymore or looking at it or trying to rip it out or do anything like that, but because the momentum is now in the other direction. And since I understood that concept, I've never recommended to anybody that they look at something head on or dive directly into it or any of that. So it can work, but it's very difficult to dive in and look at something without looking at the negativity of it. It's practically impossible.
And there's nothing wrong with seeing the negativity, I don't think. I think that
there is if you stay there for any amount of time.
Well, I would argue that the same thing is true if you're going about it the roundabout route, because if this is such a built-up pattern, a pattern of momentum that has gotten so large, yeah, you can be directing your attention over there, and you're constantly going to be drawn back to this thing over here because that pattern of momentum is so big. And people run into this all the time. I think that's what the real meaning of an addiction is. An addiction is something that's built up so big that people feel like they're powerless. They really aren't. But they feel like they're powerless because every time they try to go over here, they get pulled right back over here.
And your solution is?
My solution is stop feeling powerless by recognizing the control that you have had all along. You created this. If you create it, that means you can uncreate it. You can uncreate it by changing over to what you want instead.
Okay.
Now, you can, but I think actually there's room for both approaches, to be perfectly honest. I think that there are certain situations where it's much more effective, I would say, to go the roundabout route. I think that there are other situations where there's so much momentum built up, you can go the roundabout route and basically fail because you never stick it out long enough for the momentum to change because you just keep coming back here and say, okay, well, I'm just going to focus here because every time I go over there, I come back over here. In the short term, you can. Short term
is that a fail or is it expansion?
Well, all right. Put it this way: you cannot achieve your goal. That's what I'm calling failure.
In the short term.
In the short term, yeah.
Maybe you can.
Some will, but some won't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say there's room for both.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is when you're focusedly negative, you want to go generally negative as opposed to focusedly positive, which is not really what I'm recommending. I'm just
Well,
recommending
no,
going
actually,
to the
that's not what
next
I'm
level.
saying. That's not what
Okay.
I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I don't really want to go from specifically negative to generally negative. What I want to go from is specifically negative to speculation of what would I consider positive, even if I'm
Yeah.
not feeling it yet. What would be a positive variation on this theme of whatever it is that's leading me to drink?
Which is like pouring clean water into a glass.
But it's also a little bit more direct. The way you're taking them is you're taking them a little bit more roundabout. I'm saying let's go right through it instead of going around it.
So Abram would say that if you've got something that's a vibration that is that strong, you need to get off the topic.
Get off the subject, yes.
You need to change the subject. If it's not that strong, then you can look at it and tweak it. But if it's really strong, they strongly recommend that you don't focus on it anymore. Yes, you're using the argument that they're going to get drawn back into it. No deny about that. Nobody's denying that. You will tend to get pulled back into what you don't want, and that vibration. But if you can just spend a little more time focusing on a completely different subject. I really love my dog, I know I like alcohol, but I love my dog as well. And, you spend a little more time on the dog, which is a completely different subject to alcohol, then, eventually you can build up a positive vibration and then look back at the alcohol.
There's also other processes like forking where you focus, Abraham also says focus on the things that are working for you. So you there was something about there could be 9 things that are going wrong for you, but one thing is going really right for you. And if you focus more on that one thing that is going right for you, then all the other 9 things will just fall into place. So I mean, someone's life is not all about disaster and failure. Yes, there might be this addiction, but there might be something that this person loves to do, or there might be something that is just really going well or working for them, and that's what Abraham says: focus on that, and make more of that as well. So there
And
are
I,
many
I think
ways
it's
that
worthwhile.
you can
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. I just don't want to rule out one in favor of the other.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think the way I was pointing it out in your video is going again well.
It just does that. It has a mind of its own. Can't even blame the cat for that one.
No, you can't. I don't think the way I was putting it excludes yours at all. I see what you're pointing at, and I don't think it excludes it at all. Yeah, I think if you look at it, you can fit that in to the way I was describing it.
I agree.
Really,
I agree, definitely.
It's not a either or situation.
But I think there's a particular time when the person is ready to sort of tackle something directly. Maybe in the beginning it's not the right way to go, and then there is a time when
the time when the vibration has raised to a degree that you can look back at it more impartially and
look at it directly or whatever,
with less active vibration on that subject, with less negative active vibration on that subject. Yeah.
Maybe,
Then you're now, instead of looking at it from down there, you're now looking at it from over there, and then you can, well, that makes sense. I can get it coming up like that because I'm now looking at it from a different vibrational level. And sleep is very good if somebody wants to.
That's true.
Not passing out, but sleeping.
Yeah, not quite the same thing.
Don't pass out now.
I'm not sure if passing out does not do the same thing. I'm sure
Yes,
passing
well,
out would pause the vibration. I'm pretty sure it would. I'm pretty sure that's why you pass out, is so that you can you can pause that active vibration on that level and let it go. So
But that's
you've
why
had
they're
the
drinking.
alcohol. The alcohol's lowered the resistance. And now that it's lowered the resistance, you pass out. So you've got that whole sleeping phase at a lower resistance. And when you wake up in the morning, if you could just keep it low, you'd be on the right track. But, if you go hit the bottle again in the morning, then, it's going up again. So, yeah, no, I actually think passing out is exactly the way it should be. And it's done all on purpose so that you can have that rest phase on that released vibrational level.
Of course, it's also fairly desirable to, as quickly as possible, get to the point where you don't drink so much that you pass out. But maybe that's another topic.
No, it's exactly what the step of coming out of it would involve is wouldn't it be nice if I drink less?
Yeah.
Is kind of like a next step, and out of that comes, wouldn't it be nice if I got clarity and focus on where I want to do and where I want to go, and getting that deliciousness that comes out of, oh, this is what I want, and I'm going to get it. It's just so delicious. And when you get it, there's no space for alcohol and passing out. You're now so excited about going and get what you want that there's just no time for it. There's no space for it, and it vanishes. It starts falling out and falling away. And your focus is now on, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get this and I want that. And, even if it's a small thing like a pencil or somebody give you a cup of coffee or something, just small manifestations, go for them and just say, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? And
just working your way up the emotional guidance scale, I think that's for me, because addiction is a big label, and it's very difficult. It's like depression, when you meet someone who's in the depths of this kind of situation, it's so difficult to understand what they're going through to a certain extent. But I think when you take things in small increments and small steps, I think the emotional guidance scale is just a wonderful way to start the process, taking that first step and just taking that little step up the ladder to the next rung and to the next rung and to the next rung. And then if you fall back, then, but it's, I think the starting point is the awareness of, how does this make me feel? How do I feel when I'm maybe before I'm getting drunk, or while I'm getting drunk, or after I'm getting drunk, why am I doing it? It's an awareness. And if you can start that awareness with a small step, then that's all that's required in the beginning. Because otherwise it's such a big overwhelming, thing.
It is. Overwhelming being the operative word. In fact, I think that there's a big clue in the way it was worded. The clue being, what are some good affirmations? The idea that if I just find the right word combination, something will change. Because right now I don't feel any power at all. I have no confidence in myself at all. I have no belief that I can actually get out of this. So give me a magic wand to get out of here, because I don't know what to do. That's what I get when I read that.
Yeah, the magic wand is the emotional guidance system. That's the magic wand. So she needs to go and check out those 22 different states of being, and just, start with where she is, and then go up the next step.
So
that's the easiest way, I think.
I think
that will change her vibration.
I think it's important to understand, or let's just say I've experienced addiction, and it's in the form of game playing. And I understood, when I was doing it, even while I was doing it, I understood that I wanted to block out certain things. I just wanted to cut out certain things. I just wanted to get rid of them. I wanted to send my mind somewhere else, and I just want to get so involved with that wasn't around anymore. And I really did it viciously and focusedly and determinedly. And, it took me ages and years to get out of it all. And I think a lot of the youth today are in a very similar position. They, when I saw, I don't know if you remember, Astrid, the Croydon burning of all the shops and the looting and all the rest of it, you kind of get a feeling that the youngsters of today are extremely frustrated with their lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sitting in front of computers and computer games and all the rest of it, which is a huge part of the youth today's life, you know, YouTube, et cetera, they're just suppressing, absolutely diving into life and getting what they want. So they're kind of flapping around and just focusing on something else. And they're suppressing it because they're not getting what they want. And, you know, watching somebody else get it, or in a fantasy world or game, getting it, you know, is you know, I want something and I'm getting it. And it might just be a game, but I'm getting it. Okay. And literally life's a game. So a game's not a game. Game's no different to this life game. So you kind of, there's a part of you that understands all that and just plays with it. And there's a huge amount of satisfaction in games, because they start you off small and then they make it a bit harder and harder and harder. And then you get so good that you become one of the big shots and you're leading them groups and all the rest of it. And you feel that sense of power, which you can't feel in your life anymore. And, and it's not necessarily wrong, because it's now preparing you for what it feels like in real life to be more powerful. So there is advantages to this whole addiction of games, etc. It gets you more your dexterity increases, your focus, your eye-hand coordination improves, and there's so many things that it does for you that, you know, you can use it to your advantage. And you know, the big thing for me was realizing that I was using it to escape certain aspects of my life. And you know, it's important to kind of grasp that, and to find ways in your real life or your life outside the game to get that power in there as well, so that you can have it in the game and in real life, and you know what it feels like because you've had it in the game. So, you know, there are advantages of understanding how the addiction is trying to teach you something as well, which is what I really learned out of this whole game playing. Because, you know, sometimes I wouldn't sleep for a night or two. I would just play the game solidly, especially when I was a student. And I was like dead, you know, I was like falling asleep in classes and all the rest of it. You know, it was really terrible. So, you know, I kind of really get it. And the game was so good, we even took the floppy disks in those days. You know, there's a little floppy...
Right.
You called them stiffies in this country or stuff. I don't know.
Gee, I wonder what was on your mind.
So in South Africa, we called them floppies and stiffies. I hear you call them differently in the UK, and I think America used different words as well. But, you know, there's really floppy ones. So we used to take them to the computer classes, and every break and every opportunity we had, we were playing it anywhere and everywhere. So, you know, it was really interesting for me to understand that addiction can have a very positive side to it, and an advantageous one.
And we have only a few minutes left, but I want to touch on another point that you made there, which I thought was a very good one. You mentioned how, and again, I don't remember the exact wording, but you had kind of lost touch with what it was that was making you want to do it in the first place, which is similar to what, you know, an alcoholic or a drug abuser or a sex abuser or anybody else will often find, that they've got to the point where they've almost forgotten what it is that they're
pushing against. Yeah.
Which goes right back to the very first thing you said. There's value in embracing that. There's value in paying attention, saying, yes, I am doing the right thing at this point in time, because I need to find out what it is that I am asking and why I'm asking it. You know?
And you'll find that if you're an alcoholic and it's getting worse, it's just going to get worse. And it's going to get worse until you eventually decide to either turn it around or you kill yourself. You know, one of the two is going to happen.
Oh, do you know what step 6 is?
Not being a
have you heard?
12-stepper,
Have
I
you
don't
heard?
know.
Have you heard what step 6 is?
Oh, step 6. Yeah, you're talking about Abraham Hicks now. Yeah.
Oh,
no, I don't. I mean,
Abraham Hicks.
I did know it. That one stage.
Well, you die.
Oh, you die.
Thank you for that cheery
That's
thought.
it. Step 6 is you're off.
But that's an important point, Astrid, is to come to the understanding that death isn't death. It never has been, never will be.
Exactly.
It's basically being taken out of the game.
And apparently there is, in that step, in death, there is still contrast. But it's not like the contrast we know here on Earth.
Yeah.
But that was a bit of a revelation. Interesting.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. I want to make sure that I get our promos out of the way because they're always important. And basically, they boil down to one thing. If you are not yet a subscriber, we want to invite you to become one because this is the kind of thing you get. I mean, every single show is different. I won't kid you. It's not like we're repeating the same topics over and over again. In fact, the topics vary dramatically. But we have a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different perspectives that get expressed, and it just creates a wonderful package, a panoply of ideas that comes through 5 days a week. So become a subscriber. Just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. Right at the top, you'll find instructions on how to subscribe. And also feel free to check us out on YouTube because when we record these, we live stream the recording to YouTube at the same moment. In fact, Jeffrey and Jenny have been typing along with us here, sharing some of their insights to what we were talking about, and you can be a part of that too. So find us on YouTube. Just do a search for LOA Today podcast videos. Do a little click of the subscribe button. Click the little bell so you can be notified whenever we are live. And join us every time that we're live, which is basically 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. New York time. So, just do a little calculation. Go to Google if you aren't sure how to do the time change. Just say, what time is it in New York right now? And that'll tell you. But yeah, feel free to join us on the live stream as well, and we'd love having you. By the way, guys, I mean, that was one of the reasons I was a little bit frustrated by all the lost shows last week is because our numbers are up, and I'm saying, no, don't stop giving people content when the numbers are up. But the numbers are up. It's really exciting. We are now, right now, well, up until last week when we lost 3 shows, we were averaging over 400 listeners per episode. So we're definitely growing, and a lot of that's because of the efforts that you guys make helping out on Monday. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Walt. And carpe diem to everybody. Seize the day and catch up with you next week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Astrid, I haven't really asked you this before, but I want to ask you now because you're almost like an informal regular here. So I'm going to ask you formally, do you want to be a regular on Mondays?
I'd love to be a regular on Mondays.
Oh, all right. See, there's a very important point here because if you're going to do this, I've got to make sure I include your picture in the promos because it's going to be 3 instead of 2. And I got to let everybody know, well, Astrid's going to be there too. So that's why I have to ask this.
Well, thank you for asking.
Oh, glad to have you.
I do enjoy the discussion. It's really, really great.
It is. Jeffrey made an interesting point. He says, I appreciate intellectual and respectful conversation. And when that's a key portion. I think it's very important. The respectful side basically means that we are all of us focused more on what we like and prefer rather than on making somebody else wrong.
Absolutely.
It's an important point. I agree with him.
Yeah, because if you're spending all your time trying to make somebody else wrong, all you end up being is wrong. It's very frustrating. I can attest to that because I spent many years trying to be wrong and make other people wrong, and I succeeded.
And then everything's just wrong, and you didn't understand why you didn't feel good about it all.
I was so frustrated beyond belief; it was crazy. But no, it's all good. So thank you, guys. Before we go, any last-minute tidbits of advice for somebody who does want to? Maybe they're dealing with an addiction. Maybe they're dealing with something that they're finding to be a difficult momentum. I mean, I want to go up to each one of you and say, what's the one thing that you would say? Focus on this. Do this.
I'd say go small, little steps. Mm-hmm. Just take that first little step, whatever feels good for you, and and then that will grow.
That's good. I like that. Louis, how about you? Mine is simply, please, guys, just get a grasp of the law of attraction. Understand how it works. It can change your life.
Which will probably take you, years, because I know it's taken me years. I've learned so much, and I feel like, my God, I have so much more to go on this very, very simple concept. How can that possibly be? But then again, it gives me a podcast to do so.
But listening to there's so many videos on YouTube. Just maybe that's a small step. Just start listening to Abraham. Just start listening.
Yeah.
When you want to listen to Abraham, guys, please just start with the official Abraham channel and start at the beginning, just so you understand. Because if you go back, you go straight into the hundreds of cuts, videos that they've got out there, millions, I would say millions. You will get to feel good, but you don't necessarily understand it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you want to go to the source.
Yeah. Go to the source, go through the beginning, then you can go through those videos as much as you want. I probably spent 1,000 hours listening to them already. But I started actually, I didn't start at the beginning. I started with the videos that they have in general, felt good, and saw bits and pieces. But then once I went to the Law of Attraction book and started from the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't understand this, I didn't understand this, I didn't understand this. All the pieces fell together, so I strongly recommend that.
Yeah, I agree on the book. The Law of Attraction, the basics of the teachings of Abraham, is the primer on Law of Attraction. It's the place to start. And if you haven't read it, read it. And if you have read it, read it again, because it's that.
Yeah.
So very good. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate all your commentary.
Yeah, thank you, Walt.
Wonderful insights.
Thank
really,
you, Walt.
Really good. Thanks
Thank you,
to our
Louis.
live streamers. Thanks to our
Thanks,
podcasters
Astrid, yeah.
as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.